Good evening, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Ranking the Albums. Today we got a very special guest, first time on the show, from Brave Words and Bloody Knuckles, from Metal Asylum, and from the Metal Hall of Fame, Mr. Rich Catino. Welcome to the show, Rich.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Hello, Sea of Tranquility-ers. Thanks for having
Rich
me.
and I know each other a long, long time. We, both from the East Coast, and I have seen and hung out with Rich at various New York City concerts and New Jersey concerts for, a decade, 2 decades. I don't even know. It's been a long time.
Almost, yeah. This is like my 18th year writing and stuff.
Yeah, it's 22 for me. So it's crazy when you think about it, how the time just flies by and you dedicate so much of your time to promoting hard rock and metal and prog and what have you. So,
Yeah, and this band that we're talking about tonight has been around since what's the first album came out in '95.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. So when I've long had Kamelot on my list of bands to tackle in this Ranking the Album series, and but it's one of those bands that just others come up and it's sat on my list for month after month after month. And then, Rich and I were kind of conversing on Facebook, and I'm like, you know what? Let me just ask Rich to come on and help me with this show, because I know he's a fan. Rich is a big power metal guy, and he knows all the power metal bands, knows them well. So I said, you know what? It's about damn time we do Kamelot, and Rich is the guy to come help me out for that. So
Gravedigger tonight.
Gravedigger, Iced Earth, where we're representing power metal tonight, So everybody knows the format by now. We got 12 studio albums in this discography. So Rich and I are going to count down from number 12 to number 1. We're going to kind of ping pong back and forth in the order that we like them. And remember, everybody hears these albums differently. So we ask everybody who's watching to rank these albums in the order that you prefer. There's no right or wrong answer. So I'm going to have our guest, Rich, kick us off with his number 12.
Okay. I went with the debut, Eternity, from '95. I enjoy it, but it's with the first singer, Mark Vanderbilt.
Yep.
And it seemed like they were still getting their legs at that point. It's very influenced by Old Fate's Warning, Crimson Glory, that U.S. power metal, first Queensryche EP, Rage for Order kind of stuff. And he sounds a lot like Jeff Tate.
Big time.
Yeah. So it's cool. Like, I like Call of the Sea. What else did I write? Red Sands, The Glee Man. It's got a couple cool tunes. But not one of their strongest, I think, but it's a noble start.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I actually, for my number 12, I actually went with the second album, Dominion from '97. So that was the last with Mark on vocals. For me, I feel that their second album is a little bit of a letdown after the first. I think I probably like the first a little bit more than you do. The first, I think, is cool in a way. Well, we'll get to it in a minute. But for Dominion, good album. Not crazy about the production on the album. And I think that whole, like you mentioned, the Crimson Glory Queensryche thing from the first album, not as much on the second album. I think the second album is starting to go in the direction that we would later see them go in, but it's not quite there yet. But some good songs on here. I mean, I think we both agreed that this catalog is pretty solid, top to bottom. Yeah. Some albums greater than others, but they're all pretty damn good. One Day I'll Win, Heaven, Birth of a Hero, all strong tracks. But for me, I think I prefer the debut more than the second. But then once the third album came, all of a sudden we started to see, I think, the Kamelot that we all know and love. So back to you for number 11.
I think the first two could probably benefit from like a remix.
Yeah. What did he ever? So I don't know much about Mark Vanderbilt. Did he ever do anything after Kamelot, or?
I don't think so. I don't remember seeing his name come up anywhere since then, unless I missed it.
Yeah, it's a shame. Good singer.
Yeah. So my 11, it's tough. I flipped it recently, but I went with Ghost Opera. Not that it's bad, but it I don't know. I think after the streak that it went before that with Black Halo, Epica, Karma, they were on a roll with those albums. And I think that album, Ghost Opera, is kind of towards the end of his era, since it's the second before the last one that he was on. So it's it's a little slower, a little more mid-paced. It's okay, but not one of my favorites. It's got a few good songs on it that I really like. Let's see, like Rule the World, the title track. The there's a lot of consistency with the guitars and the keys, I think, working together.
Yeah.
So, it's not bad, but not one of my favorites.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of a letdown after, I mean, specifically like the Black Halo, I think. But yeah, good. I mean, it's got all the elements that we love about Kamelot. But
Right.
yeah, no, that's a good choice there. My number 11, I'm going to go with Siege Perilous from '98, which is their first with Roy Khan on vocals, who, of course, I guess you could say was their iconic vocalist there for a while. He, of course, comes over from Conception. Some strong tracks, Millennium, King's Eyes. You got the moody and epic Where I Reign, terrific song. And that song specifically for me, I think signals where this band is going towards on albums to come. And I think, Thomas Youngblood, pretty damn good guitar player. And he's got some smoking guitar solos on this whole album. Really, really good player. And he's basically the nuts, he's the de facto leader of this band. This is basically his band. And I think he doesn't get enough credit for, all the arrangements and the guitar work, just a really phenomenal musician and songwriter.
And you really hear that in a lot of the newer records too, with the
big time.
With the duets and the 3 parts to songs.
Yep. Great arrangements. Yeah, great arrangements.
Okay.
Number 10, back to you. Number 10.
So I did Siege Perilous for my 10 as well. Siege Perilous came in there as well. So I got all my notes here. I had to write a lot of stuff down. So much. I wrote down Ride-In as a vocal. Providence, I thought was a boring opening. It's like kind of lifeless. Millennium is very Stradivarius, so it's not really them. It sounds too much like Strato, I thought. Where I Reign is cool too. Expedition, I like the keyboards and the guitars working together. Yep. So there's like Eternity, there's a few moments that I like, but again, it's not quite where they were taking it to the next couple albums.
Yep.
It's like kind of like a transition record because it's first with Roy. Yeah,
big time. No, I totally agree. All right, my number 10, I'm going to go with Eternity, the debut from '95. You were spot on. Sounds like early Crimson Glory meets Queensryche, specifically that first Crimson Glory album, or the first two, I guess. You got Jim Morris production on there, big Florida, metal guy, produced so many bands from the Florida scene. I love Mark's vocals on the debut way more so than Dominion for whatever reason. I don't know. It's like a perfect combination of Jeff Tate and Midnight. Title track is great. Black Tower, Call of the Sea is kind of doomy. A couple kind of doomy tracks on here, but yet symphonic. Proud Nomad, Red Sands, and I think one of the Hunted also kind of sounds like Spectre Within or Awaken the Guardian, Fate's Warning a little bit, right?
Yes, yeah.
And big crunchy guitars on this album. I like Eternity. I think Eternity is a pretty good debut, and I think that the next 2 albums kind of, for me, fell off the mark a little bit, and then they kind of figured their way out. But a good record, so that's my number 10.
Okay. Number 9, I went with Poetry for the Poisoned. That's the last one with Khan. It's got a gothic feel like that. Yep. It's got a gothic feel. I really like the Zodiac, the duo with John Oliva. Whatever he shows up in, it's great.
Of course.
I mean, I'm a huge Sabotage fan, but even if it didn't work, I wouldn't pick it just because it's him. But it's like he makes gold wherever he shows up,
Yep.
What else? Hunter Season I like with Gus G doing a solo. That was good to see him show up there. That was around the time he was in Ozzy too, right?
2010, probably, or just before. Might have been just before, actually.
And Necropolis and Seal of Woven Years I wrote as well. A couple other tracks that I liked. Yeah, but that's, the last one with him. So it's good moments, but I think the few that are before, they're really, that was their zone.
Yep. All right. This may surprise you a little bit. I'm going to go for my number 9. I'm going to go with Karma from 2001. I know a lot of people find this to be they're big. I like the album a lot. I love, this is one of those albums, I think, when you, from a production standpoint. So you got Sasha Pyeth and Miro doing the production on a lot of these albums, actually. And, for a while there, the band was not carrying their own keyboard player. So Miro was actually co-producing with Sasha and doing all the keyboard orchestrations. I think, from a symphonic nature, this album is pretty spectacular. I do like it a lot. I happen to like some of the other albums just a little bit better. And I think this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, is that this catalog is so solid that not much separates these albums at all. And it's like, if you ask me next week, I probably could rank this higher.
There's a lot of consistency from that point on.
Oh yeah. This is kind of the beginning of their, pretty much impeccable run, right? Wings of Despair.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I was going to say you got the Elizabeth Part 1, 2, and 3 too.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Which is fantastic. The Spell, Karma, just a really good album, cool album cover. And I dig it. Like I said, next week, ask me, I could rank a little higher. But what are you going to do? Yeah. It's a hard list to put together, man. It's a hard list to put together.
I know. We were at 8, right?
Yep.
So I went with Silverthorne. That's the first one with the new singer. Good start. I like the duet with Sacrimony with Eliza and Alyssa. Yep. The female growls. It's like a rock opera.
Yeah.
A lot of that album. And watching the videos, it's like a short film. It's like watching little mini movies for each song. So that was it's a good start. I put down Veritas and My Confession and the title track from that album for songs that I liked.
Yeah, I dig Silverthorne a lot. It's good stuff. Tommy's a great vocalist, really, really good vocalist. I think he was a perfect choice.
Sounds, I would say, just like Khan, almost.
Yeah, pretty close. Yeah, pretty close. They kept that kind of sound intact.
Yeah, which is cool. So, like we're saying, consistency, it makes it tough to rank them.
It does.
Yeah.
All right, my number 8 is going to be Epica from 2003. So this is the first part of the,
Say that again?
What's that?
Wait, where's Epica?
Number 8.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I'm blown away. I don't know what to do with that.
I told you I like the new ones a lot, right? So I did, but it's great. It's a great album.
Yeah.
It's a great album.
Wow. I'm speechless.
Yeah, I know. And like I said, I think, Karma and Epica for a lot of people are going to rank way higher than I ranked them. This is a tough catalog to rank because, it's from like a certain point on, like from like 2000 on, all these albums are, 4.5, 5-star albums in my book. Yeah. So it's really hard to separate them. So
agreed.
And you know what it is too? I think that I tend to favor the albums that I probably got into this band maybe a little after you did. So I tend to favor the albums that I really got introduced to the band through and everything following. So like Epica and Karma, I probably wasn't really that into them yet at that point. Probably got into them a year or two after. So that probably has a lot to do with my ranking as well. Yeah. But I mean, Epica is great. I mean, it's the first part of the 2-part metal opera based on the whole Faust, storyline. Center of the Universe, Farewell, Descent of the Archangel, The Morning After. Really strong album.
A couple of songs they still play live too.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I know it's a favorite of many, and like I said, I dig it a lot. So, ask me next week, it could be my number 4 or 5. Who knows?
All right, we're at 7, right?
Yep.
Okay. I went with Shadow Theory, the new one, latest one. Again, enjoyable. The third one with the new singer.
Yep.
I wrote down Raven Light and Kevlar Skin. Thought it was heavy and driving. So another one part of that consistency with the last 5 or 6 albums.
Yep, absolutely. All right, my number 7, I'm going to go with Poetry for the Poison from 2010, the last with Roy Khan on vocals. Pretty cool album. I think it also, you brought up kind of like, metal opera before, and I think all the guest stars on a couple of these albums kind of give it like, it's almost like this Avantasia, Arion type of feel. Yes. Singers and guitar players, and it's just like in this all-star cast. The The Great Pandemonium is a great song. I love the back and forth, the clean vocals from Roy and Speed from Soilwork. Very cool. Tomorrow Came, speedy, heavy power metal track. You mentioned the Zodiac earlier, which has got everyone's favorite John Oliva and Amanda Somerville. She's a pretty popular female vocalist. Simone Simmons is on House on the Hill. Gotta love her, right? I'm a big fan of Epica and her band. And then you got Necropolis, which is heavy as hell. And then you got the 4-part title track. If you're going to go out on a high note, Mr. Khan, you did it here. And, as good an album with him as any of the other ones, I think. But
I don't know the story. Did they leave on a high note with the creativity, or was it going through the motions when they got to that album?
I thought they went out on a high note with him, I think. But, like formula-wise, is it any different than the couple albums before it? Maybe not. I think that some people have criticized this band for kind of keeping the same old album to album. You know what you're going to get with them, right? There's no big surprises. So you arguably could say that this album is not much different than the couple that came before it. For some people, that's a good thing. For others, it's like, well, you know what? Maybe they needed some fresh blood. Tommy Karavik comes in, and all the albums that he's been on are pretty fantastic too. So it depends on what you like, right? I guess.
True. All right, my 6 is Karma. Almost made my top 5. It was tough. I just really like this album. It's one of the first 2 albums I think I got into the band. One of 2, so you know how it is when you come into a band with that first album or 2.
Oh yeah,
they're your favorite. They usually stay one of your favorites. So, Forever, Wings of Despair, The Spell, Don't Cry, the title track, Temples of Gold, the ballad, Elizabeth 1, 2, and 3. I don't think I skip a track on this album as I'm looking at the track listing. It's great.
Good album, absolutely.
Yeah, it was hard to fit that in there.
All right, my number 6.
I also noted too, as I look at my notes, that it has a very Middle Eastern melody to a lot of it as well.
Yes, true. Yep, absolutely. Which is kind of a nice little add, right? I love when bands throw those little elements in there from time to time.
Yep.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right, my number 6. I think I like this album a little bit better than you do, but I noticed there are lots of Kamelot fans who probably rank this a little lower in the catalog. Ghost Opera. I dig this one, 2007. Rule the World, big, heavy. I find this album maybe a little bit heavier than some of the other albums, a little less symphonic at times, but still, catchy and symphonic all at the same time. Roy Khan, I think, is singing up a storm on here. The Human Stain, great prog arrangements, lots of symphonic metal, lots of hooks, Up Through the Ashes, big bombastic Kamelot that we all know and love. And, I always like the cover art, which on most of these albums is pretty damn spectacular. So, but I dig really strong album, I think. Really
and they have a Second Coming of that as well. I don't know if you just showed that, but that's the Second Coming cover.
Here we go.
Yep. Yeah, with the extra bonus goodies on there.
Yeah, exactly. You got the whole extra disc. So yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool. They always give you your money's worth, this band, I think.
Yep, definitely.
All right, the top 5. Here we go.
Top 5. So I guess you kind of figured out maybe my rhyme. Do you want to know my rhyme and reason for how I shuffled this, or no?
Sure.
I wanted to, because there's 3 singers, and I think they're all part of the history of the band. So I thought of it that way because they represent the sound that traveled throughout Kamelot's history. So I kind of picked the rest of the albums based on how I was going to put these in my 5. So they're represented a little bit because they're all important to the past, present, and their, maybe their future. So 5, I put in Haven, the second one.
Yep.
So let's see. Fallen Star. It's not no intro. It's very to the point, I thought, because the other ones, they have the intros to it. This just gets right to the point with that one. Let's see. The short songs are a little shorter. The ballad Under Gray Skies I really like. Yeah, I think that fit in. So yeah, as far as the other 2, I thought this was the better of the three.
With Tommy.
Haven.
Yeah, I hear it. Yeah, it's a good one. It's a really good
To
one.
the point, it shows the different sides of Kamelot as well.
Cool.
And Tommy sounds great on the second one.
Yeah, he's a really good singer. I don't know if you followed his stuff in Seventh Wonder, but Seventh Wonder is a pretty special band too. I was listening to him for a long time before he joined this band. When I heard about that, I think my first thought was like, "Wow, that's great. He's joining Kamelot. I hope Seventh Wonder doesn't break up because a terrific band as well."
Yep.
All right, my number 5. Yeah, this top 5 is the cream of the crop here for me. If you would have asked me this question, if we would have had this discussion about 10 years ago, this might have been top 2 for me. The Fourth Legacy from '99. This is a fantastic album.
Yes.
Fantastic album. For me, perfect blend of power metal and symphonic metal. I think this might be one of the, again, it's Khan really coming into his own on this album, I think. Silent Goddess, title track, Nights of Arabia. What a great song that is. Man, that chorus.
It used to be in their set list too, and they dropped it.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, exactly. You mentioned the Middle Eastern stuff, so you got the Middle Eastern tinge metal of the Inquisitor, Until Kingdom Come, straight ahead power metal, Casey Grillo's double bass drums all over the place, the chugging riffs, just the right amount of synths from Miro on this album, I think, throughout the whole thing. Great production from him and Sasha Payeth, and then, of course, you got the dramatic Lunar Sanctum, which is just absolutely terrific song to close the album. I mean, this is an absolute winner, I think. And I mean, come on, that album cover, does it get any better than that?
I know,
amazing.
Awesome.
Totally amazing.
Yeah, that's a favorite of mine too. You'll find out soon.
There you go. More to come, right? Yep, there you go.
My number 4 is Dominion, because like I said before, I wanted to represent a little bit of everybody. And I thought Dominion was the better out of the two. You liked Eternity better, but I liked Dominion a little bit more. Let's see. We Are Not Separate. Birth of the Hero's great. The piano. Sin. Song of Roland. Kind of sounds like Old Virgin Steel, I thought. Reminds me of that. Crossing Two Rivers. So I thought it's a good snapshot of that era of the band. Yeah. To be in the 5. So that's why I put it into my in my 4.
Cool.
But like I said, like we were saying, probably could benefit from a little remix, remaster, maybe.
Yeah, it's not a great sounding album from a production standpoint. So it's a little bit muddy, but it's still some good stuff on there. Very different, I think. I think that's, to me, that's the one album that sticks out the most in the catalog, is sounding kind of different from where they wound up. Both of the first two, but I think the second, to me, just sounds really different, but not necessarily.
Said, Siege is that transition album.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, big time. Yep. All right, man, the top 5 actually for me could switch at any time. I love them quite a bit. So my number 4 is going to be Haven from 2015. Okay. The second with Tommy Karavik. So many great songs on here. Yeah. So many great songs. Fallen Star, Insomnia's got great hooks. You got Citizen Zero and My Therapy, 2 really crushing power metal tracks. You got Veil of Elysium, which is kind of, speedy melodic power metal. You got Under Gray Skies with Charlotte Wessels of Delane, which is more of kind of like a folk metal tune. Pretty cool, good melodies. And then you got Liar Liar. What's that?
Troy from Nightwish is on that song too.
That's right. Yep. Yeah, a lot of guest stars on this album. And you got Alyssa from Arch Enemy doing growls on Liar Liar and Revolution. So another one of those kind of like guest star loaded albums. It seems like that's what they do on every album now. They've been doing it for quite a while. So it's good because it adds a lot of variety and flavors, right? And I know a lot of people like these albums, these big symphonic bombastic metal albums that have all these, different singers and players and stuff.
Yeah.
So
but what's good about Kamelot though is that instead of it being too big and too bombastic, there's always a hook. You always got the hook.
Oh,
and you
lots
got
of yeah.
And the melody is always very memorable. It's not just overindulgent for the sake of.
Absolutely agree. Yep.
Number 3, my top 3, Fourth Legacy. That was my introduction to them. So 1999, that was my into for that band. Yeah, love this album. Fourth Legacy, Silent Goddess, Nights of Arabia, Shadow of Uther, the Sailor Man's Hymn, The Inquisitors, like one of my favorites. Reminds me of Queensryche Empire era.
Yep, I can hear that.
Yeah. Lunar Sanctum Until Kingdom Come. Great, like power metal moving into more of their symphonic stuff. It's a little bit of both. Great memorable hooks, big melodies, galloping rhythms. I really, really dig this album. I still love it to this day.
It's got all the trimmings, right?
Yeah, exactly. A great ballad too. So yeah.
It's funny. There's a lot of bands who do that kind of symphonic power metal thing.
Mm-hmm.
I like some of them.
Yeah.
Some of them I don't like at all because they don't they kind of don't tick a lot of the buttons that Kamelot does.
Yeah.
I would probably rather listen to Kamelot even over Nightwish, to be honest with you. I just find that Kamelot for me just brings a lot of things to the table that I just love about this kind of music, and they do it well. Most importantly, their songs are so damn memorable. They got hooks all over the place, and that's important to me. I want to hear the keyboards. I want to hear the crazy guitar work. You want to hear the amazing vocals, but it's got to have those hooks to hold it all together, and the songs have to be memorable because, I mean, let's be honest, there's a lot of albums here, and these albums are not short, right?
Right.
These are hour-plus albums.
You mentioned Nightwish, and I think that happened with the newest album. Got a little too big and too grand. But another band that I was going to mention too when you said that was Rhapsody. Yeah. Who I think they got too big and too overindulgent. But they have their songs, and they have their songs throughout their albums that are really catchy and hooky, where they're not too big and too epic and too grand and too much keys and too much of the like Pavarotti vocals, and it's a little more to the point. And I think they have those moments too, so that kind of put that in a category with Nightwish.
Yep, yeah, I agree. Yeah, there's a lot of bands in this kind of like weird metal subgenre, right? So many of them. All right, my number 3, 2012, Silverthorne. So this is the first with Tommy Karavik, who comes over from Seventh Wonder. This one kind of holds a special place in my heart because it's a great concept album for one. I love Tommy as a singer so much, love his other bands. So when I like I said, when I heard he joined this band, I was pretty stoked. They just don't lose a beat at all, man. It's like Roy's gone, he comes in. It's big, it's symphonic, it's ultra memorable. Sacrimony is headbanging, but it still has all those orchestral arrangements. Ashes to Ashes, great riffing, tons of groove. Torn, Veritas, so many great songs on this album. I think it's just a fantastic debut for a kind of newly christened lineup for the band. I love the cover art. The whole thing is just kind of great looking package here. I dig it. It's I like the Tommy era quite a bit. Probably just as much as the Roy Khan era. Again, but they're both fantastic.
Yeah. That's why I put Haven in my 5 because I think the Tommy era is as good as the Roy era.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough when you've been following a band for so long. That's the one problem about doing shows like this. It's like if you've been listening to a band that's been together a long time and you've been following a long time, but have had some lineup changes, right? Or even not even that they've had lineup changes, but maybe they release albums pretty frequently. You just don't have as much history with the newer ones as much as you love them. So you're automatically going to kind of fall back to those albums that you have 10, 15 years with. Right, because you've been loving them for so long and digging them for so long. So, so that's why it's really tough to do a catalog like this, where they've been around a long time. You follow them forever, and it's like, wow, but I love the old stuff. I love the new stuff. How do I kind of put this in any kind of order? It's difficult.
But I did notice though that some of these bands, there is a little redundancy though. Some of them get into that mode where it's repetitive and redundant. I don't feel that way when I listen to Kamelot. I just feel consistency. But there's some other bands that are in the power metal family, I think, and there's album streaks that they get where it's like maybe 2 or 3 or every other. It just feels like it's the previous album and they really haven't done anything else new.
Yeah, I mean, Primal Fear is a perfect example of that, and I love Primal Fear. But
so do I.
Every album is exactly the same formula. It's good. It's great. At times it's great, but it's like exactly what you're going to get each and every time. It's basically the same guys over and I love them. Don't get me wrong, but
so do I.
But there's people who are like, I don't think I need to buy another Primal Fear album ever because this one, the last one, the one before that sound like the one that they released 15 years ago. And I
feel that way with Gravedigger too. As much as I like them, they hit the same rut sometimes. Not always, but they have their parts in their 30-year history that they've hit that rut where it's like the same album that happened before or maybe 2 albums before, and I don't really hear anything interesting or new.
Yeah.
But then maybe 2 albums later, they come out with something else where I'm just like blown away because it's like they got some other creativity, spark creativity going.
Yep. Yep.
You know?
Happens to a lot of bands.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, number 2. What do you got?
I got Black Halo for 2.
Yeah, I mean, you know.
Love it. Yes.
What more can you say about that album, right? That's like,
March of the Mephisto with Shagrath from Dimmu Borgir. When the lights are down, they still do that live, right?
I think so. Yep.
From time to time. The Haunting with Simone Simmons, Soul Society, Abandon, This Pain, Memento Mori, the title track. So many. This is like flawless, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
It flows really well, even with the interludes. I like the way the interludes flow together too.
Yep.
With the song.
That's a great album. Great album.
Yeah.
More on that in a minute.
Okay.
All right. My number 2 may surprise some people because it's a fairly new album, The Shadow Theory from 2018. This is one of my favorite albums of 2018. I just love it. Yeah. It's, you know, Tommy's 3rd album with the band. It's big. It's bombastic. It's got everything you want from Kamelot. I love I don't know how to say his last name. Oliver Palatea. Is that how he says his name? Yeah, the keyboard player.
Yeah.
He's dynamite. He does he know how to, you know, it's like almost like you got spoiled with Miro was co-producing and laying down all the keyboards for this band. But Oliver is fantastic.
How long has he been with the band now?
I think like 5. Yeah, like 5 or 8 years, something like that. It's been a couple albums.
Let me see. I'm looking him up now. Since 2005.
Oh, so it is that long. Okay, all right. It's a long time.
2005. It's Palotai, it seems like.
Palotai? Yeah, something like that.
Palotai.
Great songs on here. Raven Light, love that song. Amnesiac, catchy as all hell, great chorus. You got the duet, Tommy's duet with Jennifer Haben on In Twilight Hours. You got Kevlar Skin, which is just crushing as all hell. I just love the production of this album. Just, again, another great package. You know, you get the digipack with all the bonus stuff. Fantastic. I dig it. I love the Tommy era quite a bit, and that's my number 2.
Okay. I don't know if you heard me. I said that there wasn't too many guest musicians on this album.
No, yeah, exactly. I mean, a couple, but not like normal.
Right. And we got number 1, Epica, the one that you had lower in the list, and I looked at you like you were crazy. Where did it rank for you again, Epica?
I believe Epica was number 8.
Great. Okay, yeah, that's my number 1. Center of the Universe, I think they always still play that, right?
I think so.
Descent of the Archangel used to be in there a lot. I don't know if they still do it all the time, but that used to be in there as well. And again, good interludes that connect to the other songs. Descent of the Archangel, A Feast for the Vain on the Coldest Winter Night is great ballad. Farewell. 16 songs. You know, you got a couple of interludes in there as well, but they connect really well to the next song.
Yep. And
I think it's the most solid, front to back, top to bottom.
It's a great album. Like I said, I think my top 10, or whatever, 9, 10 are all pretty spectacular. It's just a great catalog. So, and that's a fantastic album. I'm not surprised you have it ranked as high as you do. I know a lot of people probably feel the same. Good stuff. Well, my number 1, in case you guys haven't already figured it out, is the Black Halo from 2005. This basically is, I was already listening to these guys when this album came out, but this is the album that made me like a big fan. I heard this and I was just like totally blown away. Roy Khan sounds amazing on this whole album. I love, Mephisto is just, March of Mephisto is so great. And I love, because at the time, this was 2005. So Dimmu Borgir was becoming pretty well-known and big right around the same time. So I think it was like actually perfect marketing to get him to sing on this album and add his growls to this album. And then he's on the video and everything. It just made perfect sense. Great song. Memento Mori is another song that he appears on here. Great stuff. You got This Pain, The Haunting, which you mentioned earlier, which has Epic as Simone Simmons on it.
Yes.
Moonlight, great moody track. You got the Chugging title track. Serenade, another great song. I just think start to finish a pretty terrific album. I like all the little instrumental interludes, which they do on most of their albums. Really cool. So if you love big keyboards and synths and orchestral swells, got to listen to this band because that stuff is, all over the place on all their records.
What was your introduction to them? What album did you come in on them?
I believe the first album that I got was this one. So The Fourth Legacy.
Yeah. Like myself, yeah.
Yeah, it's the first one I got. And I, at the time I was into it, but then I was like, and then I picked up the couple of the other ones, but I think it was really with this one that I really became a fan. Because I think, and I got like really fed up. I mean, like yourself, big metalhead in the 80s. And then of course, everything started to change at the beginning of the 90s. You had grunge and alternative coming out of nowhere and taking over everything. All of our favorite metal bands went into the underground. So like a good chunk of the 90s, I just stopped listening to metal. I started listening to mostly prog stuff and a lot of jazz. And it wasn't until later in the decade, right when like new metal was getting really popular, that I started getting into power metal and death metal and black metal and all that kind of stuff. And Kamelot was one of those bands that I kind of jumped on right around that time. But, I was just starting to soak back all that was metal again. And it took me a couple of years before I really started to really appreciate this band and just kind of like fall in love with them. So
yeah, that was my introduction to them too. But I discovered all this stuff, that European stuff, a few years earlier, luckily. So like when this album came out, Heart of Darkness was I think 93. So I think I found out about it maybe around 95, and that's when they put out Tunes of War. That's kind of like the second introduction I got to them, because I liked heavy metal breakdown from the 80s. But from 95 on, when I figured out that there was Eternity from Kamelot, then you had 95, 96, I think, was Stradivarius Episode.
That's probably the first band I started listening to in this genre.
Right. Blind Guardian. Then I went back a couple of years and I discovered Somewhere Far Beyond, Tales from the Twilight World. Iced Earth, of course.
Yep.
The Dark Saga. Who else? Halloween was still making great records.
Yeah.
So even though that stuff was happening in America, luckily I figured it out. I found out, I don't know how I did it, probably through reading Brave Words magazine or something, that there was this stuff coming out in Europe. So I discovered it and I started picking it up at Vintage Vinyl in New Jersey.
Yeah, it's amazing. Right around that time, you had this influx of like power metal, progressive rock coming out of Europe and all over the world. Not from here, of course, but from everywhere else. And the stuff
Kamelot
that
was from America. Kamelot was
true, yeah, true. But like even like like Symphony X, I mean, they couldn't they couldn't even get a record released here. They had to release all their stuff in Japan. So in order to get a lot of these records, you had to buy expensive import CDs or whatever. Right. So it's kind of crazy how that all evolved, right? Way back when. 25, 30 years ago. It's crazy.
25, 30 years later already.
I know, right? Crazy. So there you have it, everybody. That's Rich and myself ranking the catalog of Kamelot. Obviously, our lists were pretty different, as I knew it would be, and that's actually a good thing, because nothing worse than when you get two guys talking about a catalog and they have it ranked exactly the same. So this was kind of fun. So
thanks.
So everybody, rank this catalog as you like them down in the comments below. Be interesting to read all the comments and see how everybody ranks it. And I want to thank Rich Catino for coming on the show. Rich will be back. We were talking about doing Halloween next, I believe, right?
I would love to do Halloween with you.
Okay, sounds good. So look for
catalog. Camelot has 12 albums. How many does Halloween have now? Like 18
it's more
or something?
Yeah, it's more than that. Yeah.
Oh my God! If you include Unarmed, the Unplugged album, with all the different variations that they did, the interpretations, if you include that, and Metal Jukebox.
A lot of stuff.
Which was a cover album. So I don't know if you want to throw those two in there, but that's a lot to consume.
It is. It is. And again, a lot of, Halloween for me, I've been listening to Halloween since they first came out. I bought the EP in Walls of Jericho when it first came out on import. They went through the first period, then you got Michael joining the band, and you got a couple great albums and a couple not so great albums, and then you got all the ones since that are all pretty strong for the most part. So
Yeah.
A lot of good albums, a lot of albums. So be on the lookout for that over the next couple of weeks between Rich and myself. And make sure you visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. Rich, you want to plug any of your websites and things that you're doing?
Just, check out metalasylum.net. We're on Facebook and we have a website, and then Brave Words I'm always writing at. And I always do a lot of contributing to the Metal Hall of Fame as well. So trying to plug a lot of these European bands at the Metal Hall of Fame, actually. Iced Earth and Kamelot and Blind Guardian and all the big guys.
Cool. So go check those out, everybody. And we'll see everybody again tomorrow. For Rich Catino, I am Pete Pardo. Have a good night, everybody. And take care. Rich, thanks again.
Thanks. Cheers, guys.